Ready. Okay, Hilchos Lulav, Tav Reish Nun Aleph, Seif Bet. Yitol ha'aguda biyado haiminit. So you lift up the three species, the Lulav, Esrog, and Lulav, Hadassim, and Aravos, that you tied together. That's in your right hand. Shehem Lamala, right, so that they're facing all upwards, they're pointed upwards, which is Derech Gidul Asan, that's the way it has to be, according to the halacha. V'ikreihem Lamata, and where they grow from, the stem, has to be bottom, and on the bottom, and that's the din daraisa. Veha esrog bismalit, and the esrog we hold in our left hand. Okay. And if you switch it, you're not even yotzei the mitzvah. Okay. It's mashma, both daraisa and darabanan, you're not yotzei if it's upside down. Okay. Right? So if you did it upside down and you did it the right way, you would still have to say a bracha. Now, what's the reason why in the right hand we hold the three? Because there's three. That's one reason. Because there's the majority of the mitzvah, right? All four species are all necessary for the mitzvah. If you're missing one of them, you're not makayim the mitzvah of what we call mitzvah lulav, v'lokachtam lachem. And you have the majority of the ingredients of the mitzvah. So that gives the chashivas that you put it in the right hand. Okay? And now, b'diavad, if you hold them all in one, so the question is, if you hold them all in one hand, it's a machloket achronim, if you're yotzei b'diavad. Interesting. The Gemara says that you hold them, this really comes from the Gemara, that you hold three in your right hand and one in your left hand. So the question is the Gemara telling you that that's the only way to be yotzei the mitzvah, or is that only, they're making it easy for you? It's too hard to hold everything in one hand. They're just telling you which to hold in your right hand and which to hold in your left hand. But it's not necessarily that that's the only way to be yotzei the mitzvah. So anyway, so it's a real shaila and din daraisa. But so therefore it's important to hold some in this hand and one in the other hand. And the Aruch Shulchan says it's mashma that midaraisa you cannot even be yotzei in one hand, all of them in one hand. And it makes a diuk. I think it's his original idea. Makes a diuk on the psukim because with the three of them, it all says with a vav achibor. It's connecting all of them. And then pre-eitz hadar is all by itself without a vav. So he seems to say it might even be, it sounds like for him it's even a din de'araisa. Anyway, it's tzarachian, what is the, anyway, it's machlokas. Fine. And we mentioned this before, that obviously the esrog, we know how, the only way you're yotzei is if the pitom is upwards and the oketz is down below. Yes, when you pick it off the tree, it looks like it's the opposite. That's because first it grows upwards, and then when it gets heavy, it falls over. But the main growing is with the pitom upwards. So that's the way to be yotzei the mitzvah. That's derech gidul asan. Okay. Let's go to Gimel. Iter. No. So what happens if this is a lefty? Right, what does a lefty do? We just learned you're supposed to put the majority in your right hand for chashivas. So iter notel lulav biyamin kol adam. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, it's machloket rishonim. Shulchan Aruch paskins, you go by the right hand of, subjective, most people. It's not subjective for the lefty. You go by the right hand of everybody. So the right hand is the right hand, right? Based on right and left, objective criteria. The esrog bismol kol adam, and you go by whatever in the left hand of everybody. The batar yamin usmol de alma azlinan. We go after everybody. The lo batar yamin usmol didei. We don't go by his personal right hand or his stronger hand. So the lefty doesn't put the three in his left hand; he puts it in his right hand. And some Mishnah Berurah, again, there's different explanations, but some are machalik by tefillin. By him it goes personal. So it's more of a personal mitzvah for him. That's one explanation. Another one is that it's an adindar. Here it's a dindar abanan, that which one goes in right hand and which one goes in left hand. So we put less effort into being mechalek between one another, and we just keep it simple, since it did derabanan, and we just make it the same as everybody. Also, this mitzvah, we see everyone doing it in the shul together. It's a little bit more public, maybe. So therefore, we go by kol adam, everybody. So that's possible explanations why we do that way. And Haggah says, however, the Rama says the opposite. V'yesh omrim da'azlinan batar yamin didei. No. It's subjective, the opposite. You go by the lefty, holds the 3 in his left hand. V'yesh lito lulav b'yamin didei. V'esrak b'smol didei. Right? The lefty will hold the 3 in his left hand and the esrog in his right hand. V'chein nagu, v'chein ikar. And that's the minhag in Ashkenaz, and that's the correct way. That's the main opinion. And Mishnah Berurah points out that we see it's a machloket, so it's no big deal. The best thing to do is for a lefty to do both. Probably kamin hago, when you say the bracha the first time, you go whatever the lefty is, kamin hago, but right afterwards, switch hands for a second without a bracha, and this way you're yotze l'kol hadeos.
Well, do the non-doing. I'm a lefty, that's almost.
You're a lefty, so there's no clear 100%, depends on your minhag, but I would assume, according to the minhag, most Ashkenazim, they would only pick it up, when they pick up the bracha for the first time, a lefty would do it in his left hand, and then for a moment just switch over and lift it up, and then continue lefty doing the rest in your left hand, because that's the ikar. So for the rest of the morning, you would do a lefty with the 3 in the left hand. Okay, that's what it seems like. V'sholet b'shtei yadav, and a person who has complete control with both hands. Mishnah Berurah points out that means equally. You have equal control. There's no favorites. Otherwise, you'd be a righty or a lefty. So if it's completely equal, so then nota lulav b'yamin v'esrog b'smol kechol adam. Then you go after kechol adam like everybody kuli alma. Okay, Dalet. Tov. Adam she'ein lo yad. Now, unfortunately, if a person doesn't have a yad, notal lulav bizro. So then you hold it using your arm, your armpit, your elbows, any part of the arm. V'chen ha'esrog, and so too with the esrog. Either way, it can be held ideally with your hand, and if that's not available, then you have anywhere in your arm. Can you use your mouth or a different limb completely? That's a machlokas achronim. Okay. Now, Mishnah Berurah says if it's too hard to do it with your arm, so then just pick one after another. Also, if you could only do one with one hand and one with the arm, you can always switch. Even though lechatchila, there's the righty and the lefty supposed to do the 3 with the right hand. So it just depends. Whichever one is stronger for you, if a righty is missing, now something happening. He misses his right hand, so now his left hand becomes really his right hand. So it depends, kamin hago again. But anyways, you can do either one, l'maisa, if necessary, and if you can't use, like we said, you can't use one arm, just then pick one after another. Because we will learn later on that, again, l'chadchila, we pick them up together, right? In 2 hands, we pick them up together, we hold them together, mamish together, but one after another, it's also yotze. Right? You can pick up one, put it down, and pick up the other one, and still be yotze the mitzvah, deraisa and derabanan of lulav. We'll see that soon.
At the same time, you spread it out over the day.
Good question. We'll see if it's discussed. We'll see if it's discussed how close apart. I'm not sure. Hey, Yevarech al netilas lulav v'shechianu kodem shiitol ha'esrog. So this is a very popular, famous halacha that we know every mitzvah we do over la'asiyatan. When we do the mitzvah, we say the bracha right before we do the mitzvah. Not before is the expression, over the over. In other words, while everything's on the table or inside your case or your bag, that's not when you say the bracha. It's when everything is mamish right before you're about to be yotzei the mitzvah. So the ideal time we're going to see is we said Kodem Shitol Esrog. So the ideal time is you actually pick up 3 of the minim with one hand, and then you're not Yotze yet. You still have the Esrog, it's not in your hand. So you leave that, before you pick up the Esrog, then you say the bracha, and so that's called the best time that's over, but it's right before. Because you can't be Yotze until you pick up all 4 of them. So that's one way. But
the opposite. Realize that.
Oh, yeah.
If you pick them up one at a time,
Yeah.
it turns out that you just, say 3.
Yeah, but you're not Yotze the mitzvah. Mitzvah's Lulav, there's only one mitzvah. There's 4 components, but you weren't even Yotze the mitzvah 25% or 75% until you pick up all 4. Whatever, we can discuss how to conceptually understand that. But at the end of the day, you did nothing if you didn't pick up all 4. So anyway, so one way to do over Asiyatan, we just said, is you don't pick up the esrog when you say the bracha. You leave it on the table. Okay. Kadesh Yivarech over Asiyatan. The other option is you could pick up all 4, but very carefully. Before you pick up the esrog, make sure Yahafoch esrog ad sheyavarech. Make sure the esrog is upside down when you pick it up, and then you say the bracha. Okay. Fine. There's another one that's mentioned, I think, by the Gra and others. Another third option to be over Asiyatan is when you pick up all 4, even if it's derech in the proper gedilasa and the way it grows. Make sure you have negative kavana. Make sure before you pick them up that you have in mind, I'm not being Yotzei the mitzvah, because you can prevent yourself from being Yotzei the mitzvah if you tell yourself, I'm not doing the mitzvah, until you finish the bracha, and then you say, I'm doing the mitzvah, right? In your mind, that's enough. So that's the third way. But Orach Chaim points out that that's not the one that's told over to people, because it's too hard for a normal person to understand. You want to teach the masses the halacha practically so that they could understand and remember and implement it. So it's with the Maisa, the 2 ways that are given in the Shulchan Aruch, and not having negative kavana. Right? Technically that works, even lachatchila, but that's not the way you teach people to do it, because it's just not practical. Won't work. Okay. Let's ad sheyavarech. Now Haggah says, Vivarech me'umad. Now you say the bracha standing, like all mitzvahs. Midarabanan, you only say that, at least Pashas, it's only midarabanan, that when you say the bracha and when you do the mitzvah, we always do it standing unless there's a reason not to. Okay? Some make a hekesh of psukim, mention shiboli aleket, but Pashas, that's just simple, and it's we're all familiar from Sferas HaOmer, that's the ikar source of the drasha. V'lo yivarich rak pa'am achas b'yom. You could only say the bracha once a day. Afapi shenot lo kama pe'amim. Even though you're going to pick it up several times, you're going to be right. We know the minhag from the Gemara, as Anshe Yerushalayim. The Gemara talks about it in Sukkah Mem Aleph, that they would walk around all day when they go from one place to another. Even during davening, they would hold their lulav and esrog as long as they can. And the Gemara over there says it's to show kama chavivin mitzvos for Bnei Yisrael. And here the Mishnah Berurah calls it Hidr mitzvah, Aruch Shulchan calls it Lechibuv mitzvah. Pashtus, you're only Yotzei the mitzvah once, both Midarabanan and Midaraisa. Perhaps there's some kind of a kiyum that goes on, but the poskim discuss that as long as you're still holding it for the first time, or you're still doing the na'anuim, you're still osek b'mitzvah, you're still involved, b'shiurei mitzvah is one of the expressions, but you're still osek b'mitzvah. Why is this important? Let's say a person forgets to say the bracha right away. So he picks up the lulav and esrog. So once you pick it up, it's true, you fulfilled the mitzvah deraisa, but you're still involved in the mitzvah. So you want to say the bracha before you even start, and you're yotzei the mitzvah. But b'diavad, when's the latest time you can say the bracha? You have up until you're still osek in the mitzvah. So as long as you're still doing the na'anuim. So most say you have until the end of the na'anuim. Many say until the end of Hashanos. Some say you only have until the na'anuim of Hallel. And some say as long as you're holding it for the first time and you're still involved in it, that also works.
Is that in the Mishnah Berurah?
Half of what I said is in the Mishnah Berurah. And it's both for Ashkenazim and Sfardim. That we all hold, it's mentioned in Chazon Ovadia and other places. As long as you're still doing the Nanua, you're still osek in the mitzvah, and you can still say the bracha, right? I don't want to repeat the whole thing about Netilas Yadayim, but it's a little bit related. Okay. Shlomo Zalman points out that even during Hallel, let's say you realize you didn't say the bracha. He says during Hallel you should still say, if you're picking up the mitzvah, picking up the Lulav and Asrog, but you didn't say the mitzvah, you still can say, you say it bein prakim, in between the paragraphs, you should still say the mitzvah, the bracha of al mitzvahs Lulav, and Shehechianu if it's the first day, your first time to say it. So then you can still say it during Hallel. Okay, let's get to Vav. Just interesting thing, the wording of the bracha. What's the bracha? We say, al netilas lulav. Why did I say al mitzvahs? It's al netilas lulav, right? But we don't say al lekichas like in the pasuk. So the post can point out that when we say the bracha, Chazal they like to keep to the spirit of the law of the mitzvah of the psukim, but they don't have to keep the exact wording. So even though the Torah says ulakachtem, we could have said al lekichat lulav. We chose al netilas lulav. So one of the explanations is based on the Rashba that says, even though the pasuk says the words motzi, there he says hamotzi. When we say the bracha on bread, we say hamotzi, because we don't want to use the same letters that are smack to smack, the same letters touching each other between words. For example, when we say Baruch Atah Hashem ha'olam hamotzi, we want to break it up with the hey. Otherwise, the two mems could get swallowed up into one mem. Why the Rashba says we use the hey by hamotzi lechem min haaretz. So to here, so I'm saying you don't want to say al lekichas lulav, because then you'll have that same two lamets together, and one of those lamets can easily get swallowed up, and you'll be missing a letter. So that's problematic. But so that's why you use al with a different letter than a lamet. So we use a nun. And what's great about netila, because netila means lifting up. And how do you yotze the mitzvah of, how do you mekayim lakicha, how do you mekayim the mitzvah lulav? By you lifting it up. Ideally you lift it up a tefach, and then you can do it more with an anuim, you move it around, to lift it around. So that's why that's Abu Dram says that's the reason for netila. Okay. Vav. Lo yevarech shechianu b'shat asiyat lulav elo b'shat netilato. Now the minhag is, when do we say the bracha of shechianu? It's when you do the mitzvah. We do not do it when we prepare it and tie it together and we just do it. And you have all 7 days to say the shechianu. Lechatchila, you should obviously say it the first morning that you do the mitzvah of lulav. But if you forget to say shechianu the first day, you can say shechianu all 7 days. Okay, Zayin. Imasa beit yad v'natan bo halulav unetalo shapir dame. Now let's say you have a holder. You make some kind of a holder for your lulav, and you're holding your lulav by this holder. You could be yotze this way as well. That's also called taking it, because you're picking it up with the holder and through the holder. Delakicha ayidei davar acher shma lakicha. Even though you're picking it up through something else, and your fingers or hands are never touching the actual arba minim, you're still yotze. It'll be avad shehei derech kavod, but it has to be where it's derech kavod. Because if it's derech kavod, then it's batal to what you're doing, and then it works. Otherwise, it's like carrying through something else, which is like could be an issue of a chatzitza, or an issue of it's not really a lekicha tama, at least for the first day. So that's two explanations for that. So, okay, all right. So if you're using, you have those little brown boxes, little cardboard boxes, paper boxes to hold your esrog, you're not yotze. If you're going to use those plastic holders and keep it in the plastic holder while you're doing the mitzvah, it's lo yatza. V'im karach alav sudar in a talo, but if you just wrapped around it, I don't know, a towel or some kind of a garment, shekarach sudar al yado unatalo, or you wrap it around some kind of garment over your hands, perhaps gloves, yesh omrim dolo yatza, some say you are not yotze. Mishnah Berurah just points out that The dot to run is that you are Yotzei if it's something that's on your hands, because it's batal to your hands, but it's not, but if you wrap it around your lulav, you're not batal. Anyways, different psakim in the Rishonim, and then you end up with what's, anyways. So the Haggah concludes very simply, V'nagu lahachmir lahaser tefillin v'tabaot mi'adam. And he goes to an extreme that we remove our tefillin from our hands, our rings from our hands. Aval midina ein lachush hoel v'ein kol hayad mechusa behen. But really, mikar din, there's no question. You certainly are allowed to have tefillin on your hands. You are certainly allowed, even midina, however you want to understand that. Lachatchila, mikar din, you're certainly... Right, so that's another issue, if you're allowed to be wearing tefillin during Chol HaMoed. So everyone does kamina go, but... Okay. When it comes to... Right, so anyway, so he says, mikar din, if you have rings on, it's okay. But he says the minhag is that we are machmir to remove them. Okay. Let's go to chet. Now when you pick up, you say the bracha, you pick it up, and then you do the na'anuim. Right? We all know. Most of us translate it as shaking, but it's more of a moving. We're going to get to that shortly. So you move it in all directions. That's the na'anua. And we all know that when you do the na'anua, we don't do the movements when we say Hashem's name. We stop when we say Hashem's name, so we have proper kavanah for Hashem's name. V'chein yinanea b'hodu l'Hashem. And then when you get to Hallel, we all do na'anua when we say hodu. Pa'amachas, so Shulchan Aruch says once. The Ramah says, Minhag Ashkenaz u'nanim b'chol hodu shiomru. For all of the times we say hodu, okay, depends on your minhag and Ashkenaz. Different opinions. Minhagim u'behodu l'Hashem shebasov shekof limato she'atzibor ve'atzibor. So then everyone does it. Minanim shtei pe'amim, twice at the end, and many have the custom to do it only once. V'chein be'ana Hashem Hoshiana minanei shtei pamim. When you do na'anua twice, for the two times we say Hoshia lifi shekof limato, because we repeat it. Mishnah Berurah, if you look, quotes the pasuk from Divrei Hayamim, Az yiranenu atzei hayar, and it continues hodu l'Hashem there, and it continues v'imur hoshienu. So there you have remez from the pasuk or smachta that the atzei you're using the daled minim that we sing to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, in particular as we say hodu and as we say v'hoshienu. Right, we do it by hoshiana, we don't do it by hatzlichana. So that's that everyone agrees, that's the custom. Hagav v'yesh omrim shashaliach tzibur menanea gam ken kishomar yormarna Yisrael aval lo biyomruna v'chein nagu. Right, so that's, many Ashkenazim have that custom that they do it at that also for the, what's it called, the second one, right, but not the last two. Tet. Maybe we stop. One more. Let's do one more. What is the correct way to do na'anua? It means you move it backwards and forwards, perhaps a tefach, but you're moving it forwards and backwards. It's not a shaking, it's moving forwards, back, in and out, 3 times in each direction. And then the Ramah adds, for Ashkenazim, Toref halulav u'mechaskes fe'alin b'chol na'anua. Every time you move it in and out, you give a little shake, violent enough that it starts to rattle a little bit, but at the same time, not too violent, more gentle. You don't want to ruin it and break it at the same time. And then, so you do, that's in one direction, and then you keep going in all directions. So you go around in all 4 directions, up and down. And moving in and out, that is the real na'anua. You're bringing it in and out. Right, 3 times in each direction. Now, umatin rosh halulav l'chol tzad shemananea negdo, and you tilt it a little bit in each direction. The lulav kshemananea lamata, and then for the direction going down, hov cholamata, you actually turn it upside down. Umikre derach gedilasan, and this is called derach gedilasan. because you're going in that's the direction you're going to. Hoyol machzik ontam biado derech delastan, v'yesh medakt and yesh medaktkin shalola afachalil kishunane lamata. And some say no, you are not supposed to turn it upside down. I've not seen anyone turn it upside down. I've not seen that minhag. V'amina kisva rishona, but the Ramah says that you should do like the first minhag. V'chen nirali ikar, and that's what I think is the main one. But Mr. Bura points out that many Achronim argue with the Ramah, and I guess everyone should follow their own minhag. And I'll just point out, just out of interest, the when we do it in all directions when we do the Hoshanas by Oshiana, so the minhag of Ashkenazim is there's 3 words. For every word, you do it 2 times, 2 directions, right? Because it's 4 words in Hashem, you don't do it. By Sfaradim, they go by the syllables, whatever. For each syllable, so Hoshea will get 3 directions, and Na will get 1. And then there's different minhagim. The Rizal said to turn around as you go in each direction. So that's what most Sfaradim do. Ashkenazim, some turn around and some stand straight forward without moving, and they move it in each direction. Everyone does it. Kamin Hago. All right.